In Yiddish, we have a phrase, Wemens bist du? Whose are you? Who do you belong to? If you're at a big wedding of a lot of children, because of big families, big Hasidic families, and it might be a child that is lost in the wedding and is crying, wants his mother, wants his father, wants to eat something, whatever it is, kind of got lost at the wedding. So in Yiddish, you would go over to the person, to the child, say, Wemens bist du? Meaning, like, who's your parents? Or them, to whom do you belong? We all belong somewhere. We all have an address because we have parents. We have family. We have community. There was someone here before who came in great need for tzedakah. So afterwards he was here in the library and he took something to eat. So I asked him, "Van wanneer komt der Yid? From where does the Jew come from?" We all belong to someone. We all come from somewhere and therefore belong to someone, right?
Do you answer it?
That's not the point.
I know.
Thank you for being on point.
My brain. You bet.
You remind me, what's the difference between the shlamazel, the shlamazel, the shamil, and the nudnik? The shlamazel is the one who spills the soup. He's a shlamazel, he spilled the soup. The shlamiel is the one who the soup got got it on him, right? Shlamiel, he got it on him, right? And the nudnik is the one who says, "What flavor was that soup?"
I don't mind being
Right. So that was really on point. What flavor was the soup? Baruch Hashem that we could laugh about that, right? That's important. That we should be able to do that. So we all come from somewhere and we all belong somewhere. As a matter of fact, someone who doesn't belong somewhere, feeling of being lost. And today, people feel that more than ever before. So family. You all have family. But that being said, in the end, we all belong because we all belong to God. Right? We all belong to God. And therefore, we're always connected. We're never alone. It's a little more difficult. You have to learn a lot of Tanya for that. But the truth is, if you're really connected to God, then you'll be connected to family. You'll be connected to friends. You'll be connected to community. You'll be connected to others. Because you're connected, truly connected to yourself. Yeah? Welcome to Tanya today. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zurich and Kadesh, Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. We're in chapter 46 of Tanya. We're learning about a reciprocal love. We have a metaphor. Yesterday we explained the metaphor. Now we go further to understand this metaphor. A great mighty king comes with his whole retinue, with his noblemen, with his ministers, with the army officers, the generals, and he comes, and he himself comes to a dunghill and takes off this peasant who's sitting on a dunghill, and brings him into the inner palace, takes care of him totally, and embraces him entirely. And that is God Almighty to the Jewish people. We were in a dunghill. We were in Egypt, in a spiritually low place. And God took us out of there, not because like, was someone, the nobleman that was there. No, we were lost. 49th level of impurity. And he took us and brought us into his inner chamber where he gives us a kiss of him, his Torah. He gives us an embrace, which is his mitzvahs, as we explained at great length yesterday. But this, continues the Alter Rebbe, is the meaning of when we make a blessing. When we make a blessing, we say the words Asher Kidishanu B'mitzvah Sav, that he has sanctified us, or another way, it also means betrothed us with his mitzvahs. Right? Usually we say sanctified, but here we say betrothed us. In other words, like a wife who's betrothed, right, by a man, that creates a perfect unity between them. In this world, there's no greater unity between man and woman, husband and wife, the way, right? That, what does it, the verse say? And he shall cleave to his wife, and they become one flesh. Right? There's no greater union in the physical world than betrothal, union between husband and wife. So that is a metaphor now for us to understand that our betrothal through the mitzvah with God, the union that we have with God, is infinitely greater than there is between husband and wife through the mitzvah that we perform. Right? Through the performance of the mitzvah, because what's involved in the mitzvah, when we study Torah, when we do a mitzvah, a commandment, we are involved our godly soul, of course, but our animal soul too, because it's what gives life to the body, that it can do it. So it can, do the act of putting on tefillin, give charity, and so on. So what is the union with? The entirety of the individual, with God, with the light of the Ein Sof, which is a far greater union in the mitzvah that we have than there is between husband and wife.
Your wife.
No, because of that, you further need a wife, so then you can appreciate this idea in a deeper manner.
So may I have a wife?
That's why King Solomon, in Shir HaShirim, Song of Songs, he compared the union between God and the Jewish people of Torah and mitzvahs to the union of a bridegroom and a bride. Right? And just like there is a union between the bride and the groom, between a kiss and an embrace, as we explained, a kiss is when you say words of Torah, your lips are involved in a kiss. I'm lipping God's words. They're his words of the Torah. He's lipping them as I lip them. His breath is exchanged in me, meaning I have a piece of him in me, of his wisdom, when I am lipping his words of Torah. And the embrace, as we explained also, right, embraces with the limbs of the person. Right arm, left arm, torso, chesed, gvura, tiferes, which is a reflection of the mitzvahs, 3 elements in the mitzvah, that God's will is reflected in the limbs, just like my limb is totally nullified to my will. I will to pick up my arm. my arm is picked up. God wills the right arm of him, figuratively speaking. That's an expression of his will, meaning the mitzvah that it reflects the right arm. The mitzvah reflects the left arm, right? And the body. All the limbs, ultimately, that's called an embrace. God's embrace when we do the mitzvah, meaning a union, betrothal. That's what happens when we do a mitzvah, right? Furthermore, the word asher kiddishanu, as we initially translated it, sanctified us. What does that mean, sanctified? What does that mean? It means who's ultimately sanctified? God. What does that mean? It means he's beyond, right? He's not limited to not just pettiness. He's not limited to this world. He's beyond, right? Well, guess what happens when you do a mitzvah? We get elevated beyond this world. Doing a mitzvah, this world is, isn't, it doesn't affect us. We're beyond it, right? We're separated. Kadosh means to be separated. Holiness means separated. Sanctified means separate. God separates us from this world, meaning the negativity of this world doesn't affect us when we do a mitzvah. We're loftier as a result. We gain a quality of God. Just like he's beyond this world, we have that quality too. We're beyond this world. And this is the idea that it says in the verse in this week's Torah portion, it'll be tomorrow's teachings actually. We started with now, Kedoshim, right? It says that you shall be holy unto me, for I'm the Lord who is holy. Now, as God is holy, he's separated, he's beyond. Well, you need to be that way too, God says. How do you do that? By doing a mitzvah, right? So we have two things over here. Right? So we become like God in that respect, in being holy. And therefore, this is what it means when we say in our prayers, which is interesting. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu, Elokei Aviseinu. We say he's our God. I mean, he's our God. The God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. How's he theirs? How's he ours? We're his. Who do you belong to? Who do you belong to? Ultimately, we belong to God. Here, no. When we become sanctified on this level, meaning become separate from the world through the mitzvah that we do, then God's ours. He belongs to me. Even God belongs somewhere. Not only do we, but he belongs somewhere. Right? He's my God. Right? Because you become like God, so he's my God. And that's why also we call him on the patriarchs are also called the God of Abraham. What do you mean the God of Abraham? How's he the God of Abraham? Abraham belongs to him. Right? I don't know, imagine. No, he's the God of Abraham. Why is he the God of Abraham? If he's the difference between us and the patriarchs is the patriarchs, they were constantly, it was the God of Abraham. By us, it's when we do the mitzvah. It's not constant by us. In the act of the mitzvah, we are sanctified beyond this world, God-like, in the act of the mitzvah, in doing the mitzvah that separates us, right? That we're his, but become like his, that he becomes ours.
You don't have to be aware of that.
We need to be aware of that.
Hmm?
That we are nullified and absorbed in God's light. Again, we don't do it constantly as the patriarchs, right? But that's the reality. That's why our sages say that when a person's doing a mitzvah, you should stand up for that person because the presence of God is in that individual. Shouldn't disregard it. We should um, acknowledge it, be aware of it, acknowledge it by standing. That's what happens, particularly in the laws of Bikurim, when they come in with the first fruits into Jerusalem. So everybody would have to stand as that person's coming with the first fruits and fulfilling this mitzvah. Right? So how powerful is that? Even God belongs to someone. He belongs to us. Patriarchs in particular, the holy people in particular, because they're constantly bound up in one with him. So much so that that's their complete identity, their complete being, and nothing else but. And God belongs to them. But he belongs to us too, in the mitzvah that we do. And therefore, I'm not merely his, but he's my God. Elokeinu, we say in the davening, right? It's interesting, in davening, we first say he's our God. Then we say he's the God of the patriarchs. Take it personal, right? Take it personal. And that's what prayer is, to bring it into our hearts. That the more we identify with God through the act of through doing a mitzvah, and that separates us from the world and worldliness, the more we become like him, exalted, the more it's real for us that he's mine.
That's dangerous, though.
Well, not on this level. This is
No,
complete bittul.
If it's misunderstood, it could be a little
If it's
bit.
misunderstood, yeah, then you got to think you're God, and therefore you could do whatever you want. No, here's the opposite. It's a complete opposite. Because the patriarchs were a complete merkava, vehicle for the divine, nullified to such a degree they had no whim of their own, no desire of their own. The desire was only to fulfill the will of God. And not that they, like Bilam, right, played a trick, you know, not like, I have my own agenda and I'll keep it, hidden. And when I can get my agenda, I'll, align with God to have him fulfill my agenda. No, no, no. It's the opposite. Since we have no agenda, the agenda is only to fulfill what God needs from us, the mitzvah that we need to do. That's all there is. Yeah. Very powerful.
So when I'm going to fill in, I'm holy, I'm separate.
First thing was that it's a union, a oneness with God, betrothal.
But do I have to be conscious of that?
But you have to. Yeah,
Can
what?
I be conscious of that?
Of course, you could think it. Conscious means thinking it,
Okay.
right? Think it.
Thinking, believing.
Believe you believe it because it's part of your soul.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Siva has a question, put two question marks before is always helpful. What's the nature of relation between God and human? For example, that we slaves of God for Christian child of God. Well, I think we just expressed over here something. Through fulfilling God's commandments, we are a union with God. That was the first point. And the second point, that we're separate, elevated, exalted, beyond, that we become like God, right? As he is separate and elevated and beyond. right? That's what we just explained. That's the point over here. Are we servants of God? Yes. That's not the point over here. Are we children of God? Yes, but that's not the point over here, right? Um, we're not just one or the other. We're all of them, right? It depends what is the point that we need to emphasize, right? And the point that we need to emphasize, that's what we emphasize in the context of what the discussion is. Hope that helps you, Siba. All right, amazing.
That's it.
Siba, listen to the beginning of the class and maybe you'll get a clear of it. It's kind of different. All right, folks, Rambam coming up. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine coming to you for Chabad Tzirch and Kadesh in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you. Tanya, have an amazing